Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to be here tonight. Notice is hereby given of a workshop of the Board of Directors of the District to be held at 105 Port Road, Port Isabel, Texas, on the 13th day of February 2019 at the hour of 5 p.m. for consideration of the business of the agenda below. This notice is posted at the office of the District on February 8th, 2019 at 1:30 p.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551-041-551-050. We do have the presence of a quorum. All the board members are present at this time. If I may please have everyone stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Charles? Eddie? Come on.
Say the pledge first and then the invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we ask you to bless us with your wisdom and help us make good choices for our organization and our community. We ask this through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Moving on to item 3, consider and discuss the water conservation and drought contingency plan.
Okay, we're going to have Charles go ahead and go over it.
Should I go up the podium?
Quick as you can and state all the changes that are scratched off and then the added information.
Yeah, there's 2 versions in here. One is with the track changes, so you can see what revised. We already updated our water conservation plan back in 2017, and we're supposed to do it every 5 years. That's the requirement. In 2019, we're in the normal cycle, so they are asking us to send the revised water conservation plan to keep it on file with Texas Water Development Board. It's kind of just tied to one of the regulations here. And really, the only revision we have is that, of course, we used to have the raw water agreement in place, but that's no longer in existence. So really, those priority elements of municipal raw water, those have been added to this draft of the water conservation plan, and that's really the main points. I mean, if we start flipping through page by page, this is just everything in red is all the changes from what got approved in 2017. And the first thing I did was just review table of contents. There was just a couple of items that didn't get updated in 2017, so I just changed that up. And then we did complete another sale of water rights, so I updated our water rights, which is currently with DCQ. It's still in administration review, but with that approval, we'll be up to 7,513 acres feet.
What page is that one?
Oh, on page 4.
Okay. State pages too.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm rushing too fast. But yeah, page 4 is just the update for a recent sale on the water rights, where once that's in place, we'll be up to 7,500 in our normal conditions, and then we'll still get prorated the same amount of 1,750 under drought conditions. So our maximum when we're at full drought is 5,750 acre feet, and all that's based on the law in 1967. And so let's see, nothing else changes.
Page 10.
Yeah, page 10. That was just a project update. Since this was done, I noticed the Port Isabel wastewater treatment plant. We had our long project there. The way it started was as a water reclamation facility. So everything in red here is just an update of the actual status of the, basically we fixed the wastewater plant first, without doing any kind of reuse plant. And then the other part is we've actually built that cloth media filter out in Laguna Vista. So that's already feeding those amenity lakes, basically. And then updated our website name where we have everything posted. That's what's on page 11. And then water rate structure, we just updated with the current rate that's in place on page 12. Page 13 was actually deleted on this draft, and then I just attached the resolution as an appendix, just so we can stay on the same page without having duplicate information. And then on page 14, it's just updating to say that we're doing the AMI system upgrade. So that's kind of new. The last time we did a meter replacement was back in the 2005, 2006. So this just updates to our current project. Same thing on 15, just referencing the AMI system upgrade. And then, let's see. Well, chapter 7, which is starting on page 17. Yeah, 7.0, drought and emergency contingency plan. That's kind of the next section, you know, chapters 1 through 6 are water conservation. Chapter 7 is our drought emergency plan. And so as we come to page 18, 7.1, our stage 1 triggers, which are always in place, is just voluntary water use restrictions. And there was no change in that. It just stays exactly the same as what we've already had. And then as we go to stage 2 on page 19, that's where basically everything in red is the language brought in that was on the Village Partners Agreement. And we're just putting it into water conservation. So that's basically, you know, the changes that it's actually verbatim from what was in the agreement. And then I added the rules about how this drought contingency takes effect as far as when the combined capacity of Falcon and Understock start getting below 50%, that's when things start getting prorated. And then, you know, at stage 3, like stage 2 is basically, you know, when we go under, what is it, 50% would be the trigger on that one, capacity, which we were for a couple of days this past year, but, you know, the reservoir started to fill, so that was back to stage 1. And then stage 3 triggers is on page 20, and you see item 8, that's kind of the next step, restrictions there. And it's, you know, again, it's language from that agreement. And then on phase 4, which I don't think we ever had to implement these, but let's see. Oh, there was no change there. Let's see. Yeah, I guess the last thing is stage 4 is when the reservoirs are down to 15%, basically. The whole river's run dry, and that's where we have that item 13 as far as the district shall curtail delivery of raw water. That's basically all the language that's in here.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question concerning Chapter 3, Section 4, the raw water demand reduction possibilities.
What page are you on?
And it'll be page 9, but really it carries over into page 10, it looks like, where the revisions have been made to this document. In layman's terms, kind of talk to me about what we're talking about here, because it references modifications were completed on February 4th, 2019, improved water quality and secondary treatment, potable, and I always say that word wrong, reuse program. Kind of, can you unpack to me, the new guy on the table, of what potable reuse program is and kind of what we're referencing in this?
It kind of ties all the way back to Proposition 1, where one of our strategies that have been in place was doing water reuse. And so, you know, part of the Laguna Vista project, that Cloud Media filter was a strategy. We did the feasibility study of putting in a Port Isabel water reclamation facility. And so that there's 2 steps to that. One was fixing the sewer plant, which is secondary treatment. And then once the sewer plant improves its water quality, it's more consistent, it can deliver, you know, a cleaner water to a future advanced water treatment plant. And that's the next chunk that, you know, is pending funding. So that's really all this language is about.
So
Answers your question.
it kind of does. So it's not really talking about raw water then, you're talking about the sewage treated effluent water,
Correct.
Which is potable water.
which is potable water.
Yeah.
And that's the water that goes in that reservoir behind that area and also used in the golf courses, Emerald Lake or whatever, that pumps across under the road.
Well,
Correct?
this reuse, like today,
Uh-huh.
like if we're talking about the item 1, Port Isabel wastewater treatment plant,
Mhm.
today the discharge goes directly to the bay. It's waste, it's saline,
Okay.
it's our effluent. And what we're trying to do under this reuse project is add the treatment required to, rather than dump out to the bay, we dump back to our reservoir, whether it be reservoir here in Port Isabel or Laguna Vista.
Okay.
Right.
And then
There's
treat it.
2 different areas.
Okay.
The Laguna Vista one is reuse for filling up the lakes only,
Mm-hmm.
lakes at the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
Or if we don't use that filtration system, we dump it back to the north end of the bay there,
Mhm.
and then it goes out to the bay.
That reservoir that
The
kicks
reservoir
out
in
to the
back.
bay.
Right.
But then you're saying that it can, with the infrastructure that's been completed and phases that are still to be completed, can be re-siphoned into treating it to drink. Is
Right,
that where we're
right.
going with this
Yeah,
eventually?
and that's where
Okay.
Inventory Bureau of Reclamation got an approved Title 16 project. And that was kind of the master plan of fixing our sewer plant first, and then the next step would be like an advanced water treatment facility. So rather than letting that sewer waste go out to the bay, we do the treatment, have the environmental buffers in place to send it back to our water plant.
So you basically, if you could do that, you become basically a zero waste facility.
That's great.
And we'll come back to the board at a later date, refreshing that project.
That project
again,
seems like a big
and
one.
talk about it and see what the board
What a good
thinks
one.
about it, if we move forward on it or not. But it'll be at another meeting,
Okay.
so, yeah.
So Charles, you took the past agreement that was in place, and you took language out of it, and you put it into here, and has council reviewed it then? Have they had a chance?
No, well, I mean, council just really come on board, so we have to put it to their review.
I know it's just a drought contingency plan, but given the fact that we took it out of a contract and put it into our stuff, it would seem we should at least have council look at it before we were to like vote and pass on it. I think it would be wise.
That's why it's in a workshop.
Good.
I don't know if you have anything else, Adam, but my follow-up question, this has nothing to do with the raw water. This is just the pollutant water that's treated through the sewage process, correct?
Well, as far as, you're talking about page 2?
Raw water for irrigation for that golf course. It's not talking about that.
Well, the triggers on chapter 7, yes, that's specifically what we're talking about for that raw water.
Okay, then
Only for when we're in a drought situation.
Right.
only in a drought situation.
Right. Yeah, the only,
Redirecting it. Okay.
It's just, basically, all it's saying is that municipal potable water has priority over raw water. So in the event we can't meet demand for everybody, raw water is what would get, we stop service there first without, losing our potable service.
Okay. All right.
That's all it's saying.
Thank you for answering those questions. That's all I have, Scott.
I
Thanks.
got a question on the, kind of in that area, in that general area on page 9. There's some plans to redo Laguna Boulevard on the island in 2022. Would it be a good time to replace that water line at that time?
With the 12-inch? That's a good question. We haven't funded it, or it's not in our capital.
Well, the reason I bring it up is
Right.
because that would be a great time to do it.
Yeah.
If we can somehow coordinate and work that project in, kind of like what we did on
Boulevard?
Yeah,
Laguna?
well, we haven't identified it as being undersized. I mean, the undersized.
Well, what about the
2-inch line.
2 inch? That's really what I'm talking
Excuse me.
about.
Yeah, like all across 2-inch lines, I mean, anything that, we can do.
To improve the
application
pressure.
line, Yeah, that would be,
Is that
Those are
something we can-
lower density developments that go in there. The problem is on the east side more than it is on the west side.
But yeah, they actually have better water pressure on the east side than we do on the west side.
yeah.
There's 65 pounds on the west side, on the east side. We got 45 on the east.
Yeah, because, we did the water model, it didn't show that the 2-inch lines were a problem, but, that might not look like what's reality,
Well,
so.
Yeah, according to our document here, though, it is a problem.
Right.
And that is what is affecting pressure.
Yeah, and, well, we have the 12-inch main line on Laguna Boulevard, so we're talking about all the 2-inch laterals that have, maybe more than the 10 units or whatever the limit is supposed to be on a 2-inch main, where we'll have, like condos with like 50 units, on a 2-inch line. So, I mean, we do have an inventory where we identify those 2-inch lines that have, way too many units connected to them. And so it would be just more coming off of that 12-inch that would remain in place. When they start addressing
I guess
the-
I'm bringing it up in case that there is whatever improvements we can make to our infrastructure, that we plan to do it in 2022 when the island starts breaking up that street. And we can do it in conjunction with, if we can work it into our projects.
Yeah, definitely
CIP planning.
Okay, we'll put it in our plans, we can remember about that, and
Yeah.
we'll discuss it, yeah.
And the other, just a follow-up question on the wholesale customers. Do we have wholesale customers? Okay.
Any questions on item 3? Left in conclusion, anything?
The other thing, I just want to just follow up on I know Minnie has talked about previously about education and going to the schools and whatnot. And is that something we can continue to, it's an active program, obviously, the education part, but is there more stuff we can do for that?
What are we talking about, education itself?
Yeah, education in
We're gonna
general.
talk about it at the regular meeting. I have an agenda item that we can talk about that. Does the board need to approve traveling for the board itself?
No, I'm talking about the
Water be a drip for the school campaign or
Yeah,
something?
it's actually page 11, education and public information.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I guess what I'm asking is, we have an active education program.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
we attend the schools,
Right.
school district, and go present, you know, the water, how it gets in here to the water district and how we treat it. And then we have tours also, educational tours for the students to go to the water treatment plant, and we show them what goes on in there.
Yeah, because with our new system, we have lots more opportunity to educate our public about our system, our new system, and try to reach them through brochures, through media, website, whatever we can do to continue to improve that, that would be great.
Put your grease in a can, not in your sink, kind of a campaign, you know? Educate them
Don't be a
on,
drip.
don't be a drip.
And I do have information on
I
the
like
general
that.
manager's report for the visual, audio, I guess a drone that we're gonna hire.
Mhm.
person. So I'll talk about that also.
Okay,
And it's for that, for educational purposes.
that's all I have, thank you.
That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Moving to item 4, consider and discuss the service policy.
Okay, on the next one, the service policy, Mr. Gomez is gonna talk about that one, making the corrections that were at the last meeting, the last workshop that we had.
We pretty much went over the corrections at the last meeting. There were a couple of adjustments that we were asked to look at, and I do want to start with looking at the back of page 34, I think it was. That was, yeah, that was page 34. The,
Can I ask one question?
yes, sir.
Before we get started? This first letter from Dan Jackson, is that in relation to what you were addressing at the
Yes.
last meeting?
Yes, that's why I want to start in the back.
Okay, sorry. I'm going the other way around.
How far back we going? All the way to the last page?
34.
34, thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Under item number 4, that second little square where it had 90 days, and I think we brought this up, Mr. Sarkis.
Yes,
And so I did look at it, we did look at this, and we did change that back to 30 days, since we put 30 days up on the second bullet.
mm-hmm,
So that's one of the changes that we made.
And the third bullet also,
Right, that second item refers to if anybody wants any changes from the 30 days, they have to submit that in writing.
but the minimum appears to still be 180, is that correct? Like if an operation is in compliance, then we're not going to subject them to an every 30-day.
No, it would be at least 180.
180.
Like during the slow season,
Mm-hmm,
then it would be 180 days.
okay.
But
But at least every 180,
there are a lot of restaurants out there that have a very small grease trap, and they do require.
of course,
Yeah.
of course. But this gives us some room, I guess. Is there any, I mean, I know we talked, and sorry for talking out of turn, we talked about consequences or potential consequences. Is there any verbiage in what's being proposed that alludes to holding a business accountable for this or violations of this potentially?
Yes, on page 36.
Thank you.
There's a schedule of penalties, item D, on the bottom there.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay.
Any other questions on that? If not, move to page 13. With this was brought up by Mr. Houston. As far as the minimum on the fire line rate that we're charging, $50.25. That first page, Mr. Scott, that Mr. Friedman, that you asked about, it refers to that minimum rate of
Yes.
$50. I asked Mr. Wilden if he knew of how that $50.25 rate came about, and that was the response. We did not know. We don't know. We look back to see how far it went, and it goes back pretty far. The only other thing that we would ask the board is to perhaps give us some guidance on this, because if you look in the second page, right after that first one, that email from Dan, there is the number of meters, fire line meters that we have out there, and they're categorized by 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 inch fire meter lines, and the number of total fire line meters is 112. We have 39 2-inch, 9 4-inch, 58 6-inch, 4 8-inch, and 2 10-inch. And in comparison, the $50.25, some of these meters, let me back up here. Some of these meters, 44 of them are registering consumption. So they're using those lines for something else other than fire lines, which should be strictly fire lines. What we would need to do here is get a hold of the 44 individuals and also talk to the fire marshal and see if the fire marshal is fine with them using the fire line for something else other than what it's designated for. But in comparison, the fire line rate that we're charging is $50.25. Below is the domestic charge for each of the meter sizes, and also the irrigational minimum charge.
Annual.
I'm sorry?
Annual.
No, this is.
Monthly.
Monthly.
Charge monthly.
Minimum under A, number 3, letter A, says minimum.
The other question that Mr. Houston brought up that we looked into was how many entities around here are charging for fire lines. And it's asked me to say, but there's just a couple of them that are charging, and it is very minimum. Some of them do not charge for fire lines. On the other side, and the other side of the coin, is that our annual income on the $50.25 rate charge that we get is $64,000, over $64,000 that we get. So that's why we're coming and asking the board for some guidance on this. If not, we can continue looking at this and see, once we find out if these other 44 individuals or entities that are using the fire line for something else, and get them to strictly go fire line.
What else could they be using them for, if I may ask? I mean, just as a educated guess.
Irrigation, some of them are using in the buildings. I know that we've gone to a couple of places, and they use them in the buildings as well as like for irrigation, for pools or for the plants outside and so on.
Well, that would be
found-
cheap water, right?
Yes, sir.
That's not right, yeah.
Yeah.
And we
It
found
sounds bad.
taps, we found some taps connected to the fire line inside the buildings. That's why we know that they use it for irrigation or water
We need to
cleaning.
rework all of this and rethink all of this.
Well, I think it might be a good idea to get with the fire marshal and do that, because one of the things, the hard part about it is that it is in their private property. Sometimes the connection is away from the meter, and that's where the fire marshal does have a little bit more jurisdiction to.
I would recommend doing site inspections, with the fire marshal, and take notes from there, and then
One of
figure
the-
out what plans next.
Right, and that's one of the things that we discussed. One of the issues that we brought up was changing that fire line to irrigational charge, and then force them to get a fire line exclusively for that, this fire line.
Could one put a meter on a fire line and use it for a job site? And then pay the metered amount? What did we meter? Many already walked out.
Fire line meter,
Like a temporary, right? Like, isn't that?
no, that's at the fire hydrant.
Yeah, the fire
You're
hydrant.
talking about the fire hydrant.
Okay.
Temporary meter, not that one. What we're talking about is fire hydrant, fire protection
building.
Okay.
inside the building.
Inside.
Okay,
Hotels-
okay, 'cause I was-
Hotels, they have a system in there with a fire line meter.
Okay.
That, especially for fire protection. There's a fire
And they're
line
using it to fill pools.
I would think that has to question the pressure, safety, there's all sorts of red flags that
And
would
that-
fly off.
They test them annually, you know, they're supposed to be tested annually and so they can be working properly.
And yes,
So
it
they
is
have
private
rules on that
property, but.
From the fire department, so.
Yeah, I would recommend that we do work with the fire marshal to try to address some of this.
I'd do site visits on all of them, and then we need to revisit
And
this.
that charge, the $50 charge, we've confirmed that it goes back at least through 1994. It's been in place, possibly before that, but we have documentation as far back as 1994 that shows
Yeah,
that
we
we've been
need to
charging
address
that
the other
$50
issues
monthly.
associated.
How does the board generally handle it if we find somebody stealing water?
The board doesn't take action, we take action according to our service policy.
It's in the service
Is that,
policy.
we go out there and,
It's in
make
there.
sure that we take
we
off
should
what's
be able to say
connected,
what-
you know, illegal taps or whatnot, and report it to the police department, make sure we have record of it, and charge the customer, a fine, $250, that's what we have in the service policy. And then after that, you know, if he continues to do that, we'll do another report.
So isn't this the same thing?
You know, follow up on it.
Is this the same thing? People are just stealing water?
Possibly,
But-
possibly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we should just follow the stuff we already have, put an end to it.
But we'd have to visit, right? Just go out
Just-
to,
We have to start with the site visit.
Investigate
I
it,
would
yeah.
start with the site visit with the fire marshal and take it from there.
Yeah.
The
we can
fire
do
marshal
that.
can just show up, right?
Yes, full authority.
So it's up to the district what.
But it's also a safety issue at this
you know,
fact.
because it-
If you're breaking off of that line, it's more of a safety issue than
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, it's gonna defeat the purpose of having the fire line protection because they're utilizing it for something else. And, again, they can, possibly contaminate or lower the pressure down when it's.
When it's needed.
Yeah.
For
It
safety.
can cause a lot of problems after that.
This is kind of alarming.
So,
aside from the side conversation that's kind of cropped up, which seems to be the bigger issue, people stealing water designated for fire, it was the $50.25 monthly fee that was in question. Is that correct? Or
Right.
whether it was appropriate or inappropriate or too much because of all the upfront costs that one pays? Did we form an opinion on whether it's appropriate? I mean, I read what we have here from the Vice President of the Financial Service. I mean, he closes by saying, you know, charging a fee for making fire protection service available is not only reasonable and justifiable, but most utilities do it. I mean, are we going to keep it? Are we going to continue to charge that? Or are we opting to table it for now and talk about it later?
I would say we keep it for the sole purpose that we already know that, the fact is that, you know, nobody's stealing water, but they're paying a lesser rate by doing
Misusing.
it the way
Misusing.
they're
There you
doing
go.
it.
That's a
Yeah.
good word.
Yeah, and so, in my opinion, for the
Possibly.
little bit of money that we're getting from it, I say we keep it, you know, because it's a way to kind of make up for some of that water that is being charged at a lesser rate.
But
by-
yes,
by
but
the
we
way
have
they
to get
do
to,
it.
we have to get the water being used in the
Right.
proper
Right.
paid-for manner, effective manner.
But for
That's
the
how-
interim, keep it, because it's only generating roughly, what'd you say, $60,000 annually? We've been doing this since 1994.
Is if we have 44 users and we convert them to irrigation, that irrigation charge at the minimum is going to be a lot more than
Yeah.
what we bring annually at 64,000.
Of course, no, I get that. And the other side of that would be hold them accountable for having fire water readily available for, in the event a fire occurs. It's,
That's where I think the marshal can be of assistance.
yeah, I think that's where we need to lean, is not how to earn more money off of the fire lines, but
Make
not
sure
use them.
integrity and safety is there.
Exactly, yes.
so staff, recommends that we keep it and that, we move forward with, and take care of the ones that, the users, the end users that are using that with the fire department and work it out together. Maybe we should make them, you know, not utilize that water for irrigation or other purposes
Yeah.
because.
It's only for its intended charged purpose.
And we can take care of that internally within, you know, or
I highly stress and recommend that, my personal recommendation.
I agree with
Most of
Mr.
the ones that are taking advantage, are they the hotels, motels, business?
We can't
What-
name
what is it, the
anything
mo-
in
mo-
Well, I'm not
Yeah,
asking
it's
you.
just-
Hotels?
Okay.
So, once we,
gotta
I'm
take
gonna have
action
some
here.
resolutions for, in the regular meeting. It's already 6:30? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
we're,
need to move on. Shit.
We're gonna have some resolutions and for approval at the next regular meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
About another.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
And
Do we
then-
want to go ahead and move on to item 5, consider and discuss personnel policy?
I'm fine with that.
Yes, and on that one, Mary made the corrections that were discussed about employees taking vacation and sick leave on page
16, employee schedules starting
20, page 20? Is
20.
that the one, Mary? No. Oh, yeah.
It's part of the final approval.
Employees taking sick leave.
Are we saying page 16E?
Yes.
Okay, yes, that's what we talked about, and there's, the corrections are in there, that change the supervisor to managers, and then at the bottom, the employee's schedule, starting time on that same day, and that's all we switched over. And the one on page 20, two pages up, is the one that we made corrections on, where we took off all the red line and added before taking leave without pay. We made it kind of simple.
Employees must take earned
Complicated.
sick leave, vacation leave before taking leave without pay. Allow that.
Okay.
That's it on that one. So, we're done?
We're done?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to roll into the next meeting. Notice is hereby do we need a motion to adjourn the workshop? Motion to adjourn the workshop at 5:36 PM. Motion made by Mr. Avalos.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Starkey. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
They are. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Workshop is adjourned.